Namo Thassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Thassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Thassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. It's quite a hot day today, isn't it? Scorching sun out there. It's very hot. Very thirsty. Don't worry, I don't mean it just in the literal sense. Of course. We've come past many hot days like this. In this existential journey of samsara. Hey, all our days have been hot days. Arid, parched existence, that is what we've had. We've been burnt so many times in samsara. Not just burnt our fingers, but burnt head to toe. Just ever so fortunately, we've come across the Dhamma, this invigorating Dhamma, which is able to pacify us, cool us, settle us down, find a better way of life, as well as a better purpose of our existence in samsara. I think it's important to remind ourselves of that from time to time, lest we forget. I often do ask myself, what are some of the main reasons that people find it so difficult to understand the Dhamma? Why do people struggle so much? When monks all over the world and lay people who have understood the teaching, the doctrine, deliver many hours and days worth of, if not weeks and months and years worth of sermons, and with each and every one trying their best to help other people understand. Why is it that people struggle so much? Why is it that it just doesn't click for some people? There are lots of factors that have an effect on this. And I often do ponder myself, what might be some of these reasons, just so I can remind you to introspect, check within yourselves, do you have these reasons? Do you have these causes which prevent you from understanding the Dhamma? And if you do, what do you have to do? Clean the closet, right? Just clean it up. Get rid of the old stuff, the bad stuff, the useless stuff. Just make room. That's all you need to do. Just make room. Because what you get can only be put into your closet if you have room in it. You can only stuff so much in it. And if it's filled up with all sorts of rubbish and nonsense and useless stuff that is of no use to anybody, then you're just clogging it up with really rubbish. So we need to look within ourselves, look at our minds, look at what sort of mindset we have, and ask ourselves, why is it that we listen to so many sermons? I mean, in Sri Lanka, how many sermons get preached on a daily basis? And if you consider throughout the world, so many monks throughout the world, they preach the Dhamma. A lot of them talking about anicca dukkha anatta nowadays. A lot of them focused on Nibbana. So what is the barrier? And I think one of the main reasons really is ego. Conceit. Ego is a really big barrier for a lot of people. And this is a huge barrier that people really struggle with. So it's important that we look within ourselves and ask ourselves, do we suffer from this condition of ego? Now, I accept that only an arahant has rid himself or herself of ego once and for all. And for all the rest of us, ego is still there somewhere within us. Conceit is always there within our minds. But at least, it's like diabetes. As far as I know, you can't treat it. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can't treat it, you just have to live with it. There are drugs that help you live with it. Perhaps medicine has advanced nowadays, but when I was a layperson and last time I heard someone was diagnosed with diabetes, you couldn't treat the disease, you just have to learn to live with it. And that helps. These drugs you take, they help control the sugar levels within your body, insulin and things like that. And you just have to live with it. So this mana or ego or conceit is a condition that you have to learn to control. Because he who does not have ego no longer needs the Dhamma. One who needs the Dhamma is one who still has ego. But for as long as you have ego, you're struggling to take the Dhamma. It's a catch-22. Once you've taken the Dhamma, once you've accepted it, once it's become part of you really, then you no longer have ego. But ego is the very barrier which stops you from taking in the Dhamma. So what you need to treat the disease itself is stopping you from taking it. Are you following me? There's a treatment for the disease, but the disease itself is stopping you from taking the treatment. That's a really pitiful situation to be in. It's quite pathetic. So if we're clever enough, if we are wise enough, we need to accept that ego is something that's going to be with us until the day that we have cleansed our mind of all defilements, including ego itself. Ruparaga, mana, uddacha, avijja. So mana, that's one of the last of the sanyojana, the 10 fetters to be eradicated. It's one of the last ones to go away. The penultimate one, in fact. Just the one before last. So all this disappears the moment you become an arahant. So you don't need this instruction after you become an arahant. So therefore then we need to learn to live with it, not let it go out of control. Because when it does that, then you are in real trouble. Here are some of the things that ego will do to you. So you can at least be aware and be mindful and try and control it. Oh, before that, let me ask you, put your hand up if you don't have ego. Okay, thankfully, I'm speaking to the right audience. Just in case, you should never second guess. Never make assumptions. I learned in my life. So thankfully, we are speaking to the right audience. When I ask, put your hand up if you have ego, doesn't ego really get in the way and say, hey, don't even accept that you have this disease? This is how subtle ego is. Let me show you a time in your study of the Dhamma where you might fall into a huge trap. This is a colossal trap if you fall into which your progress in the Dhamma is absolutely non-existent after that. And that is not accepting that you have not understood. Not accepting that you don't know. You know you don't know, but you don't like to accept it. You know that you haven't understood it, but in public particularly, you don't like to accept that. Even in front of your teacher, you don't like to accept that. So for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say I talk to you about the Dhamma. I try and explain a key point that you need to understand. And then I say, put your hands up if you didn't understand that. Inside your mind, you're going to hesitate. You're in the presence of others. And when you're in the presence of others, you know you're being judged. How do you know you're being judged? It takes one to? It takes one to what? It takes one to know one. You know you're being judged because you are judgmental. Because you judge others, you know, sure as hell, others are going to be judgmental of you. So when someone asks, put your hand up if you didn't understand that. Now what you're going to do, the first thing you're going to do is not put your hand up, you're going to scan the room. Who else might have their hands up? The first one to put their hand up is really quite brave. Because he's making a fool out of himself. This is how society have taught us. Because you see, to excel in society, you have to be the one who knows it all. Is that not right? You have to be the one who knows it all. Because knowledge is what is respected in society. If you know a lot, you get respected a lot. If you have a lot of titles after your name, you're a big shot, aren't you? If you have a lot of letters after your name, BA London, MSc, where? Reading, PhD Philadelphia, I don't know, I'm just making this up. Now that earns a lot of respect. Isn't that why you put all these titles after your name? Knowledge. What else are you expressing with these titles? I have a lot of knowledge. I know a lot of stuff. If you want to know something, who should you ask? Who should you ask? Who? Of course, me. Who else? If you want to know something about anything, just ask me. If you don't know something, just ask me. I know it. Don't you always have an opinion about everything? Everything. Is it going to rain today? You have an opinion, don't you? Who's going to win the next election? Of course you have an opinion. Why? You know the answer. I don't know why they bother with elections. They should just come and ask you. Who's going to win the next World Cup? Come on. You know the answer. It's what you think. Is who you think is going to win, right? So we all have an opinion. And we're also eager to express our opinions. You know, when someone asks you a question, or someone tries to explain something to you, something you already know, do you not feel very unsettled inside? When you're listening to something that someone is explaining to you, and you already know about it, you feel so unsettled. You feel almost like, hey, stop, I know this. Are you disrespecting my knowledge? I don't know if you feel this now, but at least when you first started this journey, there you will have experienced this. Let's say you're a doctor, for instance, okay? You're a doctor. And you go into a social gathering, and let's say you've got a rash on your foot. Now you're a doctor. So if you're a doctor, you what? You know. You got a rash on your foot, and you go into a place where there are lots of people, let's say relations or neighbors or whoever, and they just incidentally see your foot and they see a rash. Now they start to give you advice. Don't people just love to give advice? It's a very favorite pastime of a lot of people, giving advice, not to oneself, to others. This is all because of ego. So by the way, this is not to ridicule society. It's just to accept that you are also a member of society. MOS, one of your titles. Not member of the Royal Society, member of society. So as a member of society, you took membership of that because you like what society has to offer. This is why you all took membership of that society. Lifelong members. So when you're in society and people see, simple example, right? Someone sees a rash on your foot and they'll start to offer advice. Hey, that rash on your foot. You know, I know a certain drug that can help you. You should try this home medicine. And they start going on. How do you feel inside? You're a doctor. Do you not feel like saying, hey, yeah, okay, I'm a doctor. You don't have to offer me advice. I'm a doctor because I know. So you can stop there, right there. Or you're a teacher. They're the most dangerous. You're a teacher, so of course you know it all. I don't know if any of you are teachers, by the way. I'm just saying this is generally how our minds work. And this is so true of all of us. Except for an Arahant. This is true for all of us. Because remember, it's only when you become an Arahant, this Sanyojana, this fetter, that is mana, goes away. Until that time, you just want to show that I'm here. Look, see, I'm here, see? Me? Hello, I'm here. You want everybody to notice that you're present in the room, in the gathering. So you have to say something. You see a few people having a chat about something. You feel this urge inside of you to contribute some way to this conversation, just so that people know that you're here. Someone cracks a joke. Now you want to crack a what joke? A bigger and better joke. Because someone else got the last laugh. That's no good. Who has to have the last laugh? I have to have the last laugh. So I have to crack a bigger joke. I have to have a better story to tell. Let's say you're in a room of people who've all traveled the world. Someone says, hey, you know what? I've been to Singapore. Another one says, oh really? I went to Malaysia just only a couple of months ago. Now you are also someone who has traveled the world. Are you not fighting inside? Do you not feel a struggle inside? This burning desire to just say, yeah, so have I. Sometimes, and really I want you all to think about the times in your life where your mind does this to you. How you become the culprit. You fall trap. You succumb to some of these appeals of your ego. Be careful, watch out. Because every time you feed your ego, this ego is going to grow. It's going to become a festering wound. Not just any old wound, it's going to become a festering wound, which is going to be hard to treat. So sometimes you're in a gathering and you've just come back from your travels around the world. Now you just want somewhere or some place to vent this. You just want to share this, the fact that you've been abroad, you've traveled. So you might start the conversation saying something like, it's quite hot in America these days. Completely irrelevant to the conversation. They were just talking about what they had for lunch last week, or last night, or last dinner, what they had for dinner last night. And from nowhere, you come up with, it was quite hot in America these days. Oh, is it? How do you know? Oh, because I just got back from America. Oh, did you? How kind of you to share that with us. Whereas really what they're thinking on the inside is, what a big brat you are. What a huge ego you have. Because people don't like the fact that you have an ego. People aren't here to listen to what you have to say. People are here to get you to listen what they have to say. Ego. Conceit. And the biggest trap that you'll find yourselves, particularly on the path in the Dhamma, is what I said at the beginning. It's where you're not willing to accept what you don't know. Especially in the presence of others. You have to be so careful of this. I can't stress it enough. Because the thing is, when we give sermons, we usually do this to a gathering of people. So it's very difficult to find one-to-one sessions with people because that's going to consume a lot of time. So even when given the opportunity to ask a question, sometimes people hesitate. Not because they don't have questions. It's because they don't like to ask a question. Because others are going to find out what? That you don't know. How sad. You're going to leave not having understood what you came to understand. You're going to leave not having succeeded or achieved what you came to achieve. Isn't that such a pity? Isn't that such a shame? So why did you bother then? All that trouble you're getting here. But by the way, I'm not talking about anyone in particular. I'm just saying these are traps that people can fall into. So please be careful. Watch out. Don't fall into these traps. And it's not just with lay people. It happens with clergy as well. Particularly with clergy, with monks and nuns and so on. Because when you're a monk, well, then you have to know, right? You're expected to know, so you have to know. So when asked a question about the Dhamma, even if you don't know, you're not willing to accept that. You're not willing to put your hand and say, sorry, I didn't understand. Please, would you care to explain that to me again? Please, would you mind? So dangerous. So watch out. Again, I repeat, it's only when you become an arahant that this problem will have been cured once and for all. So until such time, learn to live with it. Learn to control it. Because, let's be honest, you're going to know when it starts to knock on your door. You're going to know. Especially if you have come some way in the Dhamma. If you are beginning to understand, these are cankers, these are defilements that I have to cleanse my mind of. Then you will know when mana comes in. You will know, this is a foe, this is not a friend, you have to be killed. I must get rid of you, I must tackle you. You'll know this. You will know when conceit comes in, you'll know when ego comes and knocks on your door. Now you have a choice. Remember, you can't get rid of the fellow once and for all. That's going to happen much later on. But for now, are you willing to keep him under control? Or are you just going to let him walk all over you? Then you're going to lose a lot. You're going to lose a lot. Even in lay life, this is particularly in the Dhamma, but also in lay life. At school, you're in the middle of a lot of other students and other pupils. Teacher asks a question, put your hand up if you didn't understand. Very hesitant to put the hand up. Why? Because your friends are going to find out that you don't know. Your friends are going to find out that you didn't understand it. And then they're going to think, oh, he's thick. He's foolish. He's not very clever. She's not very clever. Your friends are going to think that. This is what you think. It may be so that is how they think. But who's set up to lose? Who's going to lose out when you don't put your hand up? Is it your friend? No. If you don't put your hand up when you haven't understood something, you're going to lose out. And if you lose out, then who's going to suffer? You know the answer. So be very careful. Be very careful. The best advice I can give you, particularly in this context, is be the one who knows nothing. Just be someone who knows absolutely nothing. I don't know. Please teach me. Someone comes and asks you, because particularly, right, you've been coming along to these sermons for a long time. And I believe that in your mind, in your hearts and in your minds, because you've been listening to these sermons, both English ones and the Sinhala ones perhaps, you're going to now begin to have a reasonably good understanding at least of anicca dukkha anatta, why attaining Nibbana is important, how does one get to Nibbana, these important points which are absolutely fundamental to someone who is trying to attain Nibbana. So now when you are put into a group of people who are new to such concepts, who believe that Nibbana does not exist, who believe that that's not the path to Nibbana, or something else is the path to Nibbana, or there is no Nibbana, whatever. Now, when you are in that kind of situation, you're almost always going to feel, okay, now is the time for me to talk and for everyone here to start to listen. But guess what? You're in the midst of all people there who are just like you. They're all thinking, no, I'm going to be talking, you're going to be listening. Like a pack of dogs. Everyone just wants to bark. No dog wants to listen to another dog. Every dog just wants to bark and say it's their piece. Do you find yourself in that situation? If so, that's quite pitiful. So even when you go into such a situation, in that kind of circumstance, be the one who accepts, I know nothing. Please tell me what you know. I'm prepared to listen. I don't know really a lot. And if someone asks you, what do you think about Nibbana? I've been listening to, I've heard something, anicca, dukkha, anatta, what is that? Then you start to explain. When you start to explain, chances are they're going to pick up almost immediately. You'll say, anicca is being this nature of being conditional, right? And the world is not, oh yeah, I know that. And then they're going to start talking again. Have you not had this situation in life? Not come across this? You start to explain something and someone else almost immediately picks up. And now they continue talking. Just let them. Let them say their piece. Let them have the last laugh. Because people are in such a state of vexation that people are not prepared to listen. People are in such a state of vexation, they just want to show that I am somebody. You have to accept me as a somebody. And this somebody is the supreme somebody. I am above the rest of you. This is how a lot of people are. The question is, are you one of them? If you are, then I request you consider changing yourself. Not everybody else. Consider changing yourself. Be the one who's always prepared to listen. Be the one who doesn't know anything. I don't know. I seriously don't know. Tell me what do you know? Because when you're prepared to listen, then you'll get to learn a lot. Because people are so readily prepared to give advice, you can learn a lot. Sometimes people give advice making the very mistakes that they're advising you not to do. Someone says don't smoke, they're a chain smoker. That's how people are. So learn from others, listen as much as you possibly can. Try and not fall into this trap of being the somebody whenever you're in the midst of a group of people. Try and be the nobody. Be prepared to accept that you know nothing, because then you can learn a lot. You can take in so much, and that will help you progress on the path to Dhamma. So, again, this mana, conceit or ego is not something that's going to go away anytime soon. Unless you're so close to attaining arahathood, then it's not going to go away anytime soon. So you just need to learn to live with it. Learn to live with it. Learn to control it. Keep it under guard. Be mindful, be watchful. There you are. Right, found it. You know, one of the best ways to tackle ego is whenever ego says do something, what do you have to do? The complete opposite. Of whatever ego says do the complete opposite. Someone says, let's say you walk into the temple. You see some monks. There's the Loku Swamin Mahanse, then there's the Pori Swamin Mahanse. The chief monk and this young novice. Now your ego will say, run, quickly, go to the Loku Swamin Mahanse, go and worship him. Now that's what your ego is saying. If you ever want to fight ego, well, here's a good time to do it. Whatever ego says do the complete opposite. Talk to your ego. What did you just say? Go to the Loku Swamin Mahanse, right? Yeah, watch me. I'm going to do exactly the opposite of what you just asked me to do. Go and worship the Pori Swamin Mahanse. Then your ego is going to, what the hell are you doing? This is not where you're supposed to be right now. There's the Loku Swamin Mahanse. Go there. What are you doing here? I said, no. I'm not here to surrender to you. I'm not here to attend to all your whims and fancies. I'm not here to do whatever you ask me to do. I'm here to fight you. You're the foe. I accept that. I know that. Every time the enemy wins, that's another point on their side. They're going to go stronger. Every time they win, they're going to grow stronger. Every time they lose, they're going to become weaker. So you have to win every occasion you get, every instance, every moment you get. So find instances where you can do exactly the opposite of what ego asks you to do. That's a good exercise. It's not going to be easy, I guarantee, because it's a fight I'm doing myself. It's a battle I'm fighting myself. Like I said, it's only an arahant who does not feel ego. I'm not an arahant. So I have ego. But I try to keep it under control. And whenever ego says do something, I do the opposite. Sometimes, I walk into the Sanghavasi, the monks' residence, the monks' quarters. And sometimes I see a young monk sitting down with several other monks, and they're talking the Dhamma, discussing the Dhamma. Now ego can tell me at this point, you're a Lokuswami. You don't need to go and listen to that sermon. Just walk past them. Just give them a nod. Like a big shot. So when ego says that, what am I supposed to do? The opposite of that. Go pull a bench, pull up a stool, and go and sit by that Bodhiswami and listen to what he has to say. Now ego is going, what are you doing right now? Because when you do that, ego is going to go like a dog with a tail behind its legs. That's how you need to treat ego. Not put a crown on it and sit him on the throne. Hit the bugger with a stick or a stone and see the dog go away with its tail between its legs. So fight ego. This is one of the greatest, one of the biggest obstacles that you will all come across on your path in the Dhamma. Am I wrong? So fight it. Don't give up. Okay. Were most of you here last week? No. So last week we did something interesting, didn't we? Those who were here will know. So last week we went through the doctrine right from scratch, all the way from the beginning, back to basics, all the way. I had a whiteboard here and I talked you through it and drew pictures and explained a lot to you. So we were talking about, we started with how do we know we're all alive? And very cleverly this young man here said, I can feel the flow beneath my feet. I can feel my heartbeat. I can feel my lungs expand and contract. I can see things, I can hear things, I can smell, taste and touch. So this is how we know we're alive. That's where we started. So then we concluded that the reason that we know we're alive is because we have sensations coming from the world that we live in, through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue and our body. These sensations come in through our five senses, through our brain, and leaves a sense imprint on our mind. This sense imprint, remember, the mind only speaks one language. Remember? The mind only speaks one language. The brain is responsible for translating between what's there in the outside world to the language that the mind speaks. So what's in the outside world? Sights, sounds and smells and tastes and touch. So trees and birds and bees and flowers and chocolate and pizza and rice and men and women and children and footballs and basketballs and baseballs and all sorts of stuff. This is all there in the outside world. But the mind cannot perceive any of this. The mind doesn't know any of this. All the mind can perceive are Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankhara Vijnana. That is form and feeling, perception, formations and conscience. Those words mean nothing to me. Sorry. Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankhara Vijnana. Now that makes more sense. So I'm going to continue using them if you wouldn't mind. Because there's etymology between those words. Rupa, it has a meaning. Why Rupa is called Rupa. We've talked about this in the past. I'm not going to go over it again. But these are the 5 words, the only 5 words that's in the lexicon that this mind speaks. The language the mind speaks, there's only 5 words in that language: Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. It's the brain's job to translate a sight into Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. It's the brain's job to translate a sound into Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. Smell, taste, touch, and so on. It's only if the brain can do this translation will the mind be able to perceive that something's going on in the outside world. If the mind is not able to receive these inputs as Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, then the mind has absolutely no idea what's going on out there. Take a simple example. Radio waves. Your mobile devices are now transmitting radio waves. All these phones you have in your pockets, they're transmitting radio waves. And there are radio waves all around. It's there everywhere. But how do you know? Why is it that you can't see them? There are radio waves hitting your retina right now as we speak. Because that's still electromagnetic waves, just like light. But as they hit your retina, the rods and cones in your retina, they're not sensitive enough to radio waves, so they're not able to pick up these inputs. These stimuli are not going to be traveling to your brain. What if they did though? Now the brain has to be able to translate what you've just seen into Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. And if it can't, then you're still not going to be able to perceive it, even if the eye is picking it up. And a simple example I gave you is, take the language of Sinhala and English. There are certain words in Sinhala that cannot be translated into English. I'll give one that you can relate to at this moment in time. Nidhi. What's the word in English? Sleeping. Or sleep. Ninda yanava. Falling asleep, is it? Ninda yavenava. How do you say that in English? Hina venava. Laughing. Hina yanava. Hina yavenava. All these words, they have different connotations, very different meanings behind them. You can't just say hina venava and hina yanava. They're not the same meaning. They have very different meanings. Right? But how can you translate into English? Well, you can't. You can't because English does not have a word for that feeling. Because with words, what do we communicate with words? It's feeling. It's feeling. We communicate with words. It's either fact about the world itself. I can say this is yellow, or something's brown, or something's green, and that's a fact about the world. And the rest of it is mostly feeling. How do you feel about something? So hina yanava. There's no word in English for that. Therefore, you can't express that meaning, that feeling in English. So if there was a person here who only spoke English, and I have a translator who speaks both English and Sinhala, I say the word hina venava, he's going to say Sinhala. So he's going to say hina, laughing. Our translator is going to say hina venava to the English guy. Then I say hina yanava, and he's going to look dumbfounded. I don't have a word for that. So we are never going to be able to give that Englishman the feeling of what it is that I've just expressed. Likewise, your mind only speaks one language and there are only 5 words in that language. So anything that cannot be translated into these 5 words, the mind will never perceive. It has no idea. So if the only 5 words that the mind knows are Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, then aren't these the only 5 things that your mind can attach to? Are you attached to anything you don't know about? Are you? You don't know about it. Are you attached to it? Because I say, are you attached to it? You're going to say what exactly? You don't know. So how can you be attached? Right? So to be attached, you have to know about something. So if the only way you are going to know about something is, particularly the mind is only going to know about something is through Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, and nothing else. So the mind doesn't know trees or birds or beasts or the sun or the stars or anything like that. All it knows is Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Then this is all the mind can attach itself to. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. And when it does that, that's when the aggregates become the clinging aggregates. Panchaskandha becomes Pancha Upadana Skandha. With attachment. Without attachment, it's just the 5 aggregates. Add attachment, it's like adding a bit of spice. You add a bit of spice, add a bit of attachment, now you have the Upadana Skandha, the clinging aggregates. That's where the problem is. Aggregates, no problem. Clinging aggregates, problem. Where's the problem then? Which word is problematic? Clinging. That's where the problem is. Not the aggregates, because that was there before as well. Clinging, that's where the problem is. Attachment, that's where the problem is. So this is the problem we discussed. How do we get about this? Where did this come from? As I said, beautiful flower. If you remember, beautiful flower. Now you can study the composition of 2 things. You can study the composition of beautiful, or you can study the composition of flower. Which one's going to help you attain Nibbana? Studying the composition of what? How? So by composition I mean, how is it formed? Which one should you study the composition of? Is it beautiful or flower? Beautiful. Why did you attach to it, the flower? Is it because it's a flower, or is it because it's beautiful? It's because it's beautiful. Why did you marry your wife? The wife you married, why did you marry her? Is it because she's just a woman? Or is it because she was a beautiful woman? Well, everyone else is also a woman. But you married that woman because she was beautiful. To you, at least. That's where attachment came in then. This word beautiful. Cake. Yummy cake. I ask you the question, right? I've served you 2 slices of cake on 2 sauces or 2 plates. I say one's cake, I say the other's yummy cake. Which one would you like to eat? Yum. Of course. What I didn't tell you is I cut them both off from the same cake. Why all of a sudden did you go for the yummy cake? So which one did you attach yourself to? Yummy, right? So because of yummy, you attached yourself to the cake. But all you got was just the cake. Did you get yummy with it? No. All you got was the cake. Well, is that not what you would have got if you picked the other one? Would you have not got exactly the same thing if you picked the other one? Because that was also cake. All I said was, here's cake, here's yummy cake, which one would you like? And you said, I'd like yummy cake. But they're both slices from the same cake. You picked the yummy cake, but if you had picked the other one, are you getting a different cake? No, you're getting the same cake. It's going to taste exactly the same. So why did you go for the yummy? Because that's where pleasure is, right? That's where pleasure is. Or so you thought. One's called a yummy cake because that's what, yummy is another word for what? Pleasure. So pick up your thesaurus. Alongside pleasure, you'll have lots of words to write now. Beautiful, yummy, tasty, sweet smelling, delicious. All of these are synonymous with pleasure. When you experience pleasure through your eyes, you say beautiful. This is the word for experiencing pleasure through your eyes. Nothing else. This is what beautiful is. When you experience pleasure and you have used the sense of your eye to experience that, you say, that's beautiful. Do you ever say beautiful pizza? No, you say tasty pizza. Because tasty is just another word for pleasure, except this time round it's come through which faculty? The tongue. So through taste. So tasty is just a word to express, it's just an adjective to express pleasure, except when it has to come through the sense of taste. But ultimately, all you get is the same thing. It's no different. Let me give you an analogy so you can understand this better. You've got a business, right? You've got, let's say, a company or some kind of a factory. So in this factory, you need you need to hire 5 workers to come and work in this factory. Now, you've posted a job posting and you've had responses, applications have come through, so you scrutinize the applications and you invite people for interview. So 5 guys or lots of people come along, and after interview there are 5 people you're not so keen on. There are others who are better. But at the end of the interview, you have to speak to all of them and say, these guys, you're hired and try again. Maybe some other day. So as you go out and say, you guys, you haven't been successful on this occasion, what they might potentially do is they might go and speak to someone they know, someone powerful, someone you know, someone influential maybe. And then they're going to come back with a recommendation. They're going to come back with a recommendation. So they're going to come back with a recommendation and say, but, I know this guy. I know him who you also know. He's, could you please reconsider my application? Here's a letter from this person that I know. It could be a politician, someone powerful, maybe someone who is a respected figure in society, whatever, right? So this time around, you're coming with a recommendation. Now you change your mind and you hire them. Have they changed one bit from the last time you rejected them? Have they changed? No, they're the same people, right? Same skills as before, same level of skill as before, same weaknesses, same faults, same everything. They look the same, they haven't grown taller any bit. They're the same people that came in previously. But this time around they've come in with something extra. What is that? The recommendation. Based on the recommendation, you decide to change your mind and you hire these people. Did you hire the recommendation? What did you hire? The people. Are they not the same people that came before, that you rejected? They haven't changed one bit. But this time around, you've hired them because of the recommendation. So if I were to ask the 2 questions, what and why? What have you hired? Or who have you hired? These 5 people. Why have you hired them? Because of the recommendation. Previously you thought they were no good. Now you think they're good because of the recommendation. This is what avidya is like. Ignorance. Those 5 people that came to work at your factory are Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vinyana. Previously, you examined them, you went through the applications, you went there, you took them through interview, and they were no good. They were not going to offer you anything that was of any use to you. They were just going to come and waste their time. No skill, no education, no background, nothing. They failed all the vetting checks that you did. They were no good. But next time round, the following day, they came with a recommendation letter. Someone said, no, actually, they're good. They're all right. I know them. Good guys. So this time round, you hired them. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vinyana. You hired them to come and work at your factory. This hiring is a process of attachment. Why did you hire them this time round? Why did you attach? Because they came with a recommendation. You didn't hire the recommendation, remember. You hired the same people that you rejected last time round. Same people. They might have come in wearing the same dress that they came in wearing the previous day. No different. Same tie, same shoes, same qualifications, everything the same. But this time you hired them. Why? Because of the recommendation. Recommendation is the wrong view that was given to you. Because of ignorance. This time round you are prepared to accept them. Okay, it's okay, come and work at my factory. Now, have you not hired a bunch of time wasters? Have you not just hired someone who is unskilled, no education, no background, no talent? Because they were the same people you rejected the previous day, right? This time around you hired them. Are they going to do you any good in your factory? Are they? No. Are they going to bring you any profit? No, they're only ever going to bring you loss after loss after loss. What did you fall for? The workers or the recommendation? The recommendation. If you had looked at them objectively and not gone by the recommendation, you wouldn't have hired them the second day either. You would have rejected them just the way you did on the first day. But this time round, you fell for the recommendation. This is how, because of avidya, because of ignorance, you attach yourself. You attach yourself not to ignorance, not to pleasure, but ultimately you're attaching to Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vinyana. This is the what, but the why is because they're pleasurable. Because ignorance tells you that Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vinyana are pleasurable. But are they? Are they? No. Because what is pleasure again? What is pleasure? Pleasure is the word that we use for ashvada. How does one experience pleasure? Relief from vexation. Relief from vexation. Do you not realize that you're saying a lot of words there? Relief from vexation. Lots of words. Someone says, what are you doing? I'm walking to school. Lots of words there. Walking to school. Because that's a process. It's not something that's to be found in an object. If I were to ask you, what color is this? How many words do you need? How many words do you need? One. Why? Because color is a characteristic of this object. It's there in the object. See? It's green. Is that the output of a process? No. It's green because it's green. What temperature is it? How many words do you need? Just one. 23 degrees Celsius. Whatever, Fahrenheit or whatever you want to use. That's not a lot of words. But I say, what are you doing? Listening to Dhamma. That's a lot of words. Why? Is listening to Dhamma a characteristic of who you are? Is it? No, because that's a process. So then I ask you, what is pleasure? Relief from vexation. Lots of words. Why so? Is that a characteristic of an object? No, it's the output of a process. Where does this process run? You say yummy cake. Yummy is pleasure, right? It's another word for pleasure, as we just discussed a moment ago. Which bit of the cake is yummy then? Which bit of the cake is yummy? No, you can't say which bit of the cake is yummy, because yummy is pleasure and pleasure is relief from vexation. Relief from vexation happens where? On the cake? On the tongue? No, in the mind. So first the mind has to be vexed because of a view that came from the outside world, from someone. Remember, we talked about the example of how someone walks into a cake shop and then one step at a time they're being relieved of vexation. They start at 100%, then go down to 75, then to 50, then to 25. We detail the steps involved there. But how at every time, whatever left takes up the 100%. This is the nature. So, when I ask you, what is pleasure? And you have to say it's relief from vexation, what we need to realize is that is the output of a process. A process, what processes can run on this leaf? What processes can run in a leaf? Nothing. It's just an object. It's a thing, it's an inanimate thing, that's all it is. But the mind is not such. A process can run in the mind. The mind can vex. Then the mind can be fed with Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. As soon as the mind is fed with Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, now the mind has received what it was looking for. Remember we talked about this is how pleasure is felt. I'm reminding this again to you because that was a really interesting point that we talked about last time. You lose a pair of keys, you go looking around the house for your keys. The same keys you had on your key hanger by the door every day as you walked in and out you saw them. As you walked past your front door you saw them, but every time you saw them it was just a pair of keys. Nothing else. One day you want to go out, you want to drive your car and you're looking for your keys, now you can't find them. Because you can't find them, you go into a state of vexation. Now you don't like that feeling. Who here likes looking for something? You've lost something and now you're looking for it. Who likes that feeling of looking for something, searching something? Anyone? No, it's a very unpleasurable feeling. Looking for something is a very unpleasurable feeling. Because if having lost something is a very pleasurable feeling, would you go look for it? So you can relieve yourself of that feeling. When you have lost something, is that a good feeling? Something that you like? No. Isn't the reason you go looking for it, you don't like the feeling of having lost it? If you like the feeling of having lost it, would you go looking for it? No, you just leave it lost. Hey, I've just lost my keys. Yay! You lose your child. I've just lost my child. Woo! Maybe. Some parents. I lost them at the monastery, all the better. So that feeling of having lost something is never a positive feeling. No one likes the feeling of losing something because you're attached to it. This is why you don't like it. Lose something you're not attached to? So what? You got your rubbish at home, right? It's either under the sink or somewhere by the fridge or wherever, right? You put your rubbish. In the morning, you look at your rubbish. Oh, I've got to throw the rubbish out. But you're too busy, so you go out. You come back in the evening, and the rubbish is gone. Who cried about it? Who complained about it? Where's the rubbish? I was going to come back home and get rid of it. Now, where's the rubbish? Bring it back this moment, I dare. Anyone complained because the rubbish was gone? No one complained. Because you were not attached to it. But as soon as you attach yourself to someone, something or someone, if you lose it, now you're going to do whatever you can to regain it. This is the process of abhisankara. This is exactly what abhisankara is. Going through the process of looking for something that you want, something you like. It's like kick-starting your search engines. This is kick-starting search engines. You have a search engine within your mind. You're looking for it. Whatever you're attached to, you're looking for. So going back to the keys then, now you go looking around the house for your keys. You look under the pillows, you look under the mattress, you look in the toilet, you look within the toilet. Who knows, right? It could have been any time. You look in the drawers, you look in the sink, you look in the cupboards, you look in the fridge. Wherever you can imagine, you go looking for your keys. And somewhere, ultimately you find it. And as soon as you find it, now, how do you feel? You feel good, right? You've just found your keys. Just think about, let's just analyze what just happened there. Before the moment, that moment before you saw your keys, you were looking for something. What were you looking for? Your keys. You didn't like looking for your keys. You don't like looking for anything. Would you not rather, if you wish for something, to be there just in front of you right now? I want something. What is it? Something. Okay, it's there. Tea. Cake. If you could just wish for it and it would just appear in front of you, wouldn't you like that? Isn't that why Aladdin went looking for the genie? Because whatever he wished for, the genie would bring it in front of him. But that doesn't work in the real world, except when you go to Paranimita Vasavarti. But even there's a problem. But we'll come to that in a moment. This is what we detailed last week, and today I'm gonna detail that just a little bit more. I gave you the example of a mother losing her child at the shopping mall, remember? I'm going to expand on that just a little bit more and really get you to understand how throughout this phase of looking for something, you're suffering like nobody's business. You're suffering like suffering is going out of fashion. You're just worried that suffering might just go out of fashion. So what are you doing? Let's just suffer as much as we possibly can before it goes out of fashion. So as soon as you find your keys, what is finding something? What does that mean? To have found something, what must you have been doing before that? Lost it or looking for it. I walked into this room. Did I find this? No, it was just there. I wasn't looking for it. It was just there. So I picked it up. But usually we use the word I found it. When you say I found it, usually you were looking for it beforehand. You were searching for something. Then you say I found, lost and found, right? You will have it at the airport, lost and found. The train station, wherever, lost and found. What comes before found? What and found? Lost and found. So you have to lose it before you find it. When you lose something, your mind goes into a state of vexation because you don't like to have lost something you like. Now you start looking for it. The very activity that's involved in looking for something is not pleasurable. You have to go knocking on your neighbor's door. You have to start ringing your friends. Hey, I lost my keys. Did you see it? You have to ring the police. I lost my keys. Did you see it? You have to walk outside and look all around, in your garden, under the bed sheets, in your pillows. You have to go looking for it. None of these things are pleasurable things to do. None of these things are fun things to do. But you go through this process and ultimately you find what you were looking for. And at that point in time, as soon as you find your keys, what can you stop doing now? Looking for your keys. You can now stop looking for your keys. This activity of looking for something, searching for something which you really didn't like, now you can stop. It is this activity that brought you a lot of suffering. This was what was tormenting, what was painful, what was vexing. Now you can stop that activity. This is where Sankara Dukkha comes to an end. Abhisankara Dukkha comes to an end, because remember we talked about Dukkha Dukkha, Viparinama Dukkha and Abhisankara Dukkha, right? Abhisankara Dukkha now comes to an end. Because no longer do you have to go looking for it, you just found it. But what ignorance tells us is, that pleasure you experience because you stopped doing something that was unpleasurable, that relief that you found, ignorance says it was the key that brought you here, the pleasure. It's the key that brought you pleasure. That's why someone finds something that you were looking for. You go and hug them. Oh, thank you, dear. I was looking for this all day. You're the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. You hug them. You kiss them. Thank you so much for finding this because you just relieved me from my vexation. But is it they who relieved you from vexation? No. There was a process of looking that was happening inside. The process of looking, the process of seeking, this searching process was running on the inside. It was like an engine constantly running. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Now that engine came to a stop. This engine, which was heated up all throughout, can now stop and take a breath. That is the feeling of pleasure. That feeling of pleasure you are now experiencing because this painful feeling of looking for it, that activity has stopped. Is it not foolish to think then it's the person that brought me the keys that brought me pleasure with it as well? The key has a key tag. Where is the pleasure tag? Because if pleasure came with the key, then it has to have a pleasure tag as well. It's got a key tag. Where's the pleasure tag? Okay, which bit of the key has pleasure in it? Is it the key ring? Is it the tag? Is it the first half of the key or the second half of the key? Because then whenever you're feeling sad about something, all I have to do is come and show you a key. Let's say you failed your exams. Okay? You're really having a bad day. You failed your exams. Didn't go well. Now to make you happy, what should I do? Show you a key. Why? Well, pleasure is in the key, isn't it? Does that work? No. But if you failed your exams, how can I make you happy now? I can tell you, actually those weren't your results. Here are your results. You've passed. Now that is going to make you happy. Why? What were you vexed about? Your exam results. You were stressed about that. This unpleasurable feeling that you were experiencing was because you lost something that you liked. What did you lose that you like? Good results. So your mind goes into, how can I recover from this situation? I'm now stressed. How can I get that job? How can I go into my next class? I can't do any of these things. What am I going to do? Now you're looking for a way out of this trap. Out of this pitfall. Out of this pit. You're looking for a way out of it. Then I come and say, hey, no, that's not your results. Here are your results. You passed. And I bring you a certificate with your results printed on it. The first day you see it, you laminate it, you frame it, you put it on the wall, and then whenever someone comes in, you say, hey, look at my exam results. See, I passed, right? You take it wherever you go and start showing it to everybody because you feel so much pleasure. Because you were able to achieve something that you were so trying to do. But a neighbor comes around. Remember when you were really young, okay, as kids, right? You passed your grade 1 exam. The first ever exam you did at school, your grade 1 exam, you passed. How did you feel? Well, if you can't remember, at least you can imagine. It's exactly how you felt the last time you passed whatever exam you did. Whether it was your MBBS or CIMA or whatever exam you did, that's exactly how you felt when you passed your grade 1 exam. So many years ago. You passed your grade 1 exam. Next door neighbor came round. He just came round for a cup of tea. And you can, uncle, or auntie, see, I passed my grade 1 exam. I passed my exam. Your face is like you just landed on the moon. Like the first man to land on the moon. That's what your face is looking like. But to that person, it's just, okay, they're just going to pretend to be happy. Just like you pretend to be happy when a young grade 1 1-year-old or grade 1 kid comes and says, I just passed my exams, uncle. You know how you put that pretend face and say, oh, Putta, well done, how good of you, well done. How long are you going to be smiling about that? He's going to move on and go and do his homework or whatever, and then you're just going to change subject. So where were we? Okay, go Putta, go and play and just don't come back again. Where were we now? You're going to go back to talk about whatever you were talking about. But to that young child, it's everything. Right? Why? Because he has just been relieved of his vexation. Something that he was waiting for a long time to happen. He was looking for something. What was he looking for? To pass his exams. So this search engine now came to a stop. This roaring engine, this heated engine now came to a stop. And it's that pleasure that he now experiences. That engine is no longer running. The stress of it, the strain of it, the pain of it has now just gone away. Do you remember passing your O-levels? Your scholarship exams? And you got a certificate? And you loved it? You possibly laminated it? Framed it? Maybe put it on your wall? Or put it on your fridge so your mother could see it every time she walked to the fridge? Do you still have it? Where is it now? You don't even know. Why? Because if it was a certificate that brought you pleasure, well, surely even today, you should just keep looking at it. Every time you see it, it should bring you pleasure. So it's not the outside world object then that brought you pleasure, is it? It's not that certificate that brought you pleasure. It's not your exam results that brought you pleasure. It's relief from vexation that brought you pleasure. So is it not foolish then to think that it was something on the outside, something external, that packaged pleasure with it and brought it to me? Because this is when you start looking for suppliers. If something comes from the outside world, then you have to look for, you have to go looking for suppliers. Someone to supply you with the goods that you want. So if pleasure comes from the outside, then you have to go looking for it. You'll have to find suppliers. Then you become the consumer. Now you're in a world of consumers and suppliers. But the thing is, no one supplies to you if you don't give them something that they want. This is a give and take world. It's a dog-eat-dog world. It's a give and take world. You give me, I give you. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. I scratch your back, you're not scratching mine. Hey, hello. Here's my back, come on, scratch it. No, I can't. Well, I'm going to stop scratching your back then. And I'm going to go find someone else who can scratch my back. Then I'll start scratching their back. It's a world of consumers and suppliers. The reason that we are still players in this world of consumers and suppliers is because we still expect pleasure to be packaged up and brought to us from the outside world. But it's not there outside. Remember, when I asked you what is pleasure, you had to give me a lot of words. Relief from vexation. That's a process. And a process cannot run in an outside object. It has to run in the mind, because this is a mental process. This pleasure we talk about is mental pleasure, right? It's mental pleasure. So it has to be a process that runs in an alive thing. And that is the mind. In the mind this process runs. So it's the mind that attaches. It's the mind that is relieved. And it's the mind that feels pleasure. Everything happening in the mind. Nothing's going on in the outside world. Someone likes cake. I say, would you like cake? They go, yeah, I'd like cake, please. Now they're attached to cake. Okay? So here's the mind on the left hand side. Here's cake on the right hand side. I say, would you like cake? He goes, yep, I'd like cake, please. Attachment. Where does it happen? Here or here? Here's the mind, here's the cake. Over here, right? Attachment. Vexation. Where does it happen? Mind or cake? Mind. Relief from vexation. Where does that happen? Mind or cake? Mind. Now pleasure is experienced. Where does that happen? Mind or cake? Mind. When did I ever talk about cake? I've talked about attachment, I've talked about vexation, I've talked about relief from vexation, and I've talked about pleasure. Every time you said mind, 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 mind. Not once did you say cake. So what has cake got to do anything with any of what you just talked about? Then is it not foolish, is it not unwise to think that it's cake that brings me pleasure? Because this entire process, start to end, ran in the mind. Nothing happened in the cake. It's the same cake before and it's the same cake now. No change. So let's go to that example we talked about last week. Arising and passing away was where we spent a lot of time last week. Because remember, something really important to understand is because a lot of people, especially you, right? Because I say that because, let's be honest, you're well-to-do, well-educated people in society. The reason you got there was not simply because you like to work hard, but because we believe that if we are rich, if we have lots of money, if we are powerful, then we can be happy. Knowledge, money, and power brings us happiness. This is what we learned. And for that purpose, for that aim, we worked hard to earn lots of money, get a lot of knowledge, acquire a lot of knowledge, and to have a lot of power. This is what we worked hard for. The reason that we acquire a lot of knowledge, gain power, and earn money is for no other reason other than when we have these three things, it's easier to acquire what it is that we desire. Let's say you like watching TV. You're at your neighbors or relations, you see TV for the first time. You ask you, what is that? That's a TV. Oh, how did you get one? You have to have money for that. How do you get money? You have to work for that. Okay. So you go start working. Now you earn enough money to buy yourself a TV. Now you bring that TV home. So have you not just acquired what it is you desired? Why did you buy the TV? Because you liked what you saw in the TV. If that was a broken TV, would you have bought one? No. So the reason you bought the TV was because it had lovely sights and lovely sounds. The key word is lovely. Lovely sights, lovely sounds. That's why you brought the TV home. To acquire the TV, you had to earn money. So, having got used to this method of finding happiness by acquiring what we desire, all human beings, generally all of us, we have now come to believe that being rich is the answer to being happy. If you're wealthy, you can be happy. Because if you're wealthy, you have a lot of money. When you have a lot of money, you can just go and buy whatever you like at a whim and a fancy. You can go wherever you like when you have a lot of money. You can have your own jet if you like, if you have a lot of money. You can eat out whenever you like if you have a lot of money. So when you have a lot of money, you can acquire whatever it is you desire. You can buy half the planet if you have that money, that much money. So we have come to believe that money is the answer, or wealth is the answer, riches is the answer to happiness. Someone who seeks happiness, what they need to do is go and find money. Or knowledge. Because when you have knowledge, then you can either make something, or you can go and invest your knowledge in some kind of enterprise, which will then eventually earn you money. Or it's power. When you have power, you are now an influential person. Then it's easier to again acquire what it is you desire. So these three things, wealth, power, and knowledge, we have come to believe are the route to happiness. Because when we have these three things, it becomes so much easier. It becomes very easy to acquire what we desire. This is the formula for happiness that we have come to learn. Now here's the problem. No matter how much knowledge you have, no matter how much wealth you have, no matter how much power you have, the only thing that you can influence with these three things is what you have around you. Either what you have on your body or what's around you. So a car, that's an object that you can buy and have around you. Clothes, that you can have on you, still it's around you. Right? You can get yourself a lovely haircut, that's still around you. If you consider your mind and the rest of it as the outside world, including your body, then even things you do to your body, some people go through plastic surgery when they have a lot of money, still to try and change the outside world. If someone was blind, would they go through plastic surgery? Someone's blind. No, they wouldn't. So really what they care about is not what the other person sees. is what they see. They don't like what they see, so therefore they change. Therefore they change. So we try to change the outside world, and to change the outside world and do it easily. These three things help us a lot: wealth, knowledge and power. But all they enable us to do is change the outside world, not our mind. When did wealth ever help you change your mind? As in, relieve your mind from suffering. When did wealth ever help you do that? All wealth ever helped you do was buy the things that you like, so you could bring them to you, bring them close to you. That's all wealth helped you do. But wealth never brought you pleasure. Because what can wealth buy? It can buy cars, it can buy planes, it can buy clothes, buy houses, buy food, buy toys, buy books and whatever you like. But all it can do is buy these objects that are in the outside world. But it can't buy pleasure. Wealth never brought pleasure. Power can't buy pleasure. All power can do is make you an influential person. Therefore you can now still again bring the things in the outside world that you like closer to you. But still it can't do anything to your mind. So the same goes for knowledge. It can't do anything to your mind. The only thing that can have a transformational change on your mind is your view about the world. This is the doctrine. This is the Dhamma. It's the Dhamma that you hold, the Dhamma that you bear, the Dhamma that you believe in, that can make a transformational change on your mind. And the nature of the mind is arising and passing away, like any other conditional object or entity. So take a simple example. Flower, I and the mind. So this I, not capital I. The eye with which you see the world. Okay? I'll put that aside. Let's take cake again. Piece of cake, nose and the mind. Now you like to smell the cake, or you like to taste the cake. Let's keep it simple. Tongue, so cake, tongue and the mind. The cake is a conditional object. And the cake will remain in that state for as long as there are conditions that are in favor, that keep it in that state. So if you leave a bit of cake outside the fridge for a couple of days, it's going to go off. Why? Because conditions have changed. Now it's going to go moldy. Why? Because conditions have changed. For as long as you keep it in the fridge, how do you stop things from going off? By keeping it in the fridge. What factor have you taken away? Heat, as well as humidity. You take these factors away by putting something in the fridge. Because whatever mold or fungi that grow, it needs humidity, it needs temperature to grow. So you take away these factors, now it's not going to go off. But you keep the same thing outside, now heat and humidity, these factors have now been put back into the equation. As soon as these factors have been brought back into the equation, now the right conditions are there for this cake to go off. So that bit of cake, to be in that state, is that not conditional? Is it not because of conditions it's in that particular state, or is it because you like it to be like that? It's because of the conditions. What about the eye there, or what about the tongue there? The tongue is the same, right? The tongue is in that state because of conditions that keep it in that state. If someone gets a disease of the tongue, now you have blisters all over your tongue. Now you can't taste food like you used to. Or you catch a cold. Now everything tastes bitter. So again, it's conditions that keep something in that state. And the mind is the same. The mind arises and passes away. A mind arises because there are causes that enable it to arise. The mind stays in that state of having arisen for a period of time only because there are causes that keep it in that state. And the mind passes away when the causes have ceased to exist. arising and passing away, arising and passing away, arising and passing away, non-stop. So if you remember last week's example of this mother walking into the shopping mall with her child, she has instructed her child, Buddha, please don't run anywhere. When we go shopping, I want you to behave yourself, hold on to my hand and don't go anywhere, always be with me. So all the instruction is not going to change this child's mind. He's a mischievous little brat. So as soon as mother goes out with shopping with the child, now the mother's doing her window shopping and she's in the mall. So this child finds an opportunity to let go of the mother's hand, and now he starts running all over the place. Mother doesn't realize for a moment, but the moment she realizes, she starts looking for a child. Where's my child? Where's my child? Is gone. Again, just like the feeling you had when you started looking for your keys, the mother now starts doing what? Looking for her child. Now she's looking for her child. She has kicked off an activity which is not pleasurable. Why did she kick that activity off? Because she lost whose child? Her child. I lost my child, that's why I'm looking for it. That's why I'm looking for her, that's why I'm looking for him. I lost my child, that's why I am looking for him. Next door neighbor lost their child. I'm not looking for him. He's going to be looking for him. I lost my child, so I'm looking for him. The moment I was attached to my child, the moment I called that child my child, now that's where attachment arose, right? At that point, attachment has arisen. The moment you say, this is my child, attachment has arisen. From that point onwards, dukkha is in play. The fear of losing. Because you love it, you like it, you want it, you are interested in its safekeeping. Now the fear of losing it has kicked in. Are you not fearful of losing your jewelry that you lock away in your safes at home? I used to, but now I don't have any jewelry to put in a safe. What about your car keys? What about your phone? What about your wallet? When you get into the bus, you haven't lost it yet, but you're in the bus. You fall asleep in the bus. You wake up. You thought you put your wallet in your pocket, but you don't remember that actually you put it into your bag before you fell asleep, just in case you might get pickpocketed. So you put it into your bag, but you can't remember it now. Now you're feeling your pockets. Where's my wallet? But why did you put it in the bag in the first place? Because it's whose wallet? My wallet. That's the point where, the point you said, this is my wallet, dukkha arose. The fear of losing. Yam picchanna labati. Piyehi vipayogo. Hasn't happened yet, but the fear of it. This is the fear of uncertainty. You're not sure what might happen. Why did you take out insurance? Fear of what? Uncertainty. Nothing's happened yet, right? If something has happened, then they wouldn't be giving you insurance anyway. Can you take out insurance after you've hit your car? No, you got to take it before you hit the car. So when you're uncertain, the fear of uncertainty kicks in the moment you said, this was whose car? My car. When it was in the showroom, did you take out insurance for a car you saw in the showroom? No, when did you take out insurance? When you bought the car. When did you take out life assurance for your child? After the child was born. Or at least when you thought, this is my child. My child. It's for your child you took out assurance, life assurance. It's for your watch you took out insurance. Why? Because you don't like the fear of uncertainty. You don't like that feeling. It's a very anxious feeling. It's a feeling of unsettled. It's an unsettled feeling. Don't know what's going to happen. Uncertain. It's like watching a cricket match. Always uncertain. With every ball, isn't there uncertainty? Or let's say you have a team that you like and they're batting, with every ball, do you not sense uncertainty? Because you don't like for there to be a wicket. Every ball tenses you up. This is why you like sport. Seriously. You like pleasure, therefore you like sport. But what do you get from sport? Vexation and relief from vexation. Vexation and relief from vexation. Vexation and relief from vexation. With every ball of every over, vexation and relief from vexation. Do you not put yourself through turmoil? Is this not self-torture? Seriously? Sitting in front of the TV, watching a cricket match, is that not self-torture? If self-torture were a crime, you'd all be imprisoned by now. Thankfully, torturing yourself is not a crime. Are you not grateful that torturing yourself is not a crime? Because you'd be all in prison right now. Do you think you could do the same to another person and get away with it? No, you can't torture someone else and get away with it. But you can torture yourself all you like. Thankfully. Every sport you watch is a source of pleasure, so you think. Why? Every ball that is brought to the goal, with the players playing on the field, every ball that is bowled by the bowler, every time the batsman takes a strike, every time there's a ball in the air and there's a fielder running to catch it, do you see throughout the game, it's constant vexation? Constant. From the moment the bowler starts to run with that ball in his hand, and that ball is released from the bowler's hand, now the ball takes a bounce on the field, and now it goes to the batsman, and the batsman lifts his bat, takes a hit. Now it's in the air. You can tell me at which point vexation has ceased, okay? I'll keep going on. Has vexation stopped at any point? No. The ball's up in the air. Now the field is running to the ball. He continues to run to the ball. And you can see the ball's approaching the boundary. But he doesn't give up. He continues running. Now the ball is standing just by the boundary. And the ball's coming down. You can tell me when I can stop, okay? You can tell me, okay, that's it, no more vexation at that point. Now the bowler is looking at the air, looking at the ball, waiting for the ball to come into his hands. And he waits, and waits, and waits, and finally the ball comes into his hands. Are you done? He drops the ball. And then he catches it again. Do you see how people make a living off of you? Do you see how people make a living by putting you through endless suffering? You love pleasure. Oh yes. So what do? They make you go and sit in front of the TV. And then they start playing a game. Now you sit there watching TV. And when the ball's up in the air, oh wait, there's a news flash. Or there's an advert. Ball's up in the air. There's an advert on TV. Or you're waiting for the third umpire to give his decision. The right moment to put an ad. Because you're all sat by the edge of the seat waiting for what's going to happen. And because you're in such a state of vexation, people can now do what with you? Make money out of you. And you're okay with that? Are you okay that Now, if you have ever been in that situation where you've been in public and lost your child, how did you feel? At least as a parent, you can imagine this situation. Or in a playground, your child's gone missing. In the supermarket, your child's gone missing. On the train, on the bus, your child's gone missing. You should have experienced it at some point. Crossing the road, the child's gone missing. Some point or the other, you should have all experienced this, right? If it's not your child, perhaps your parent. We've all been a child at some point in our lives. Your mother's gone missing. You're just a young child. Where's my mother? So you see, at 10 times a minute, this mother's going, where's my child? But physically, she's holding on to the child's hand. That's the real sad side of it. That is the really, really sad side of it. She's physically holding on to the child's hand, and yet she's asking, where's my child? And how many times a minute? 10 times a minute she's going, where's my child? So to a parent, losing a child is like virtually death. Keep my life, keep my child, take me. You might say if you were put in that situation. Leave my child's life and take mine, you might say in that kind of situation. So here's a mother who's lost her child. What is she going to do? She's going to start doing what? What do you do to your lost key? Start looking. You're going to start looking for it, searching for it. So this mother has lost her child. What is she going to start doing? Searching for it, looking for the child. And as at the point she starts looking for the child, again the brain brings back another packet of Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, and the brain goes, oh, here it is, don't worry. Here the child is. You were looking for it, and now you can stop looking for it. That activity of searching can come to a halt. That activity of searching, which was so painful, that brought you so much suffering, so much vexation, can now come to a halt. At that point, you are relieved of vexation. At that point, you feel pleasure. And, oh God, you think it's the child that brought me pleasure. So you keep holding on to the child. This time not physically. Mentally you keep holding on to the child. You keep your attachment to the child. Again, what's going to happen? Whatever arises has to pass away. So this chitta, this thought that arose, now passes away. Again the mother's going, what? Where's my child? Now I was being nice to you, of course. 10 times a minute. At what rate do chittas arise and pass away? At billions of chittas a minute. No, actually, billions of chittas a second. So imagine that. This mother losing her child at 1 billion times a second. Where's my child? Oh, found him. Where's my child? Oh, found him. Where's my child? Oh, found him. Can you imagine that? She's literally holding on to the child's hand. Physically, she's holding on to the child's hand. Now, the reason I talked about, people think that it's money that brings pleasure. If you have all the money in the world, you can be happy, people think. This is what I used to think. Money can bring you lots of physical stuff. Let's say gold, for instance. Someone likes gold. So you go, or let's say jewelry. Okay? People like jewelry, people love jewelry, so lots of money means lots of jewelry. Now you bring the most expensive necklace you can find. The most expensive necklace that money can buy, you buy that. Now you put it around your neck. You're going to go, oh, necklace. Chitta is going to arise, and what's going to happen to it? Pass away. Now what are you going to say? Where's my necklace? And then it's going to rise again. Sigh of relief. Again you're going to feel, oh, thank goodness, there's my necklace. And it's going to pass again. Now, what are you going to say again? Where's my necklace? Do you see, the more things you are attached to, the more you're going to go through this painful process? the more things you're attached to, the more you're going to go through this. Imagine standing in a room like this and it's filled with all the things that you really, really, really like, all the things that you really love. You can scan the room and see all these beautiful things, all these things that you really attach to, you really like. Let's say you have a pool of cars. You love cars. Some people love cars. They have all the most luxurious cars that money can buy. Your Bentleys and Rolls Royces and Ferraris and whatever they make these days. Gallardos and what else do they have? Benzes, right? So you have all these cars parked up in your garage. Right? That's what super rich people do, right? Buy lots of cars. Because you think money can bring happiness. Money can bring you a car, but how much money can stop a chitta that arose from passing away? How much money? No amount of money can do that. So you have cars that are worth $1 billion parked in front of your garage, parked in front of your house. You're looking at it, oh, I've got cars worth $1 billion. Next moment you're going to go, where are they? The next moment you're going to lose $1 billion worth of car. You're going to go, where's my car? And immediately the next moment, where's my car's back? And the next moment, disappear. Now it's back again. And disappear. And now it's back again. Are you not going to go through this for as long as you are attached to those cars? How many children can make you happy? 5 children? Bring all 5 in front of you and say, oh, my lovely children, you make me happy. You make me the happiest mother alive. You're looking at all your 5 children. Let's imagine your mind can look at all 5 children at one time, but of course it can't. But let's just imagine that it can. Whatever arises has to pass away. At the moment of your mind passing away, that chitta passing away, all 5 of your children have been kidnapped. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but all 5 of them have been kidnapped. How's his mother going to feel right now? Would you not rather have just 1? Seriously? Is this not 5 times the pain? So how many children would you like, Buddha? Think. You can understand. He's answering all the questions. All the right answers. You can understand. See, when you break it down to simple language, anybody can understand this. If I start talking about Chittaviti, then you're all going to fall asleep. What's the point? If I start pulling out Abhidhamma, what's the point? Because it's not ignorance of Abhidhamma that brings us suffering. It's attachment that brings us suffering. And why do we attach ourselves? Because we believe the world is pleasurable. Is there pleasure in the world? Is there pleasure out there? No. Pleasure is nothing but the outcome of a process. I can't emphasize that enough. It's the output of a process, not a characteristic of an outside world object. If it were the characteristic of an outside world object, then bring as many objects as you can and embrace them. But it's the outcome of a process, and that process runs in your mind. So not all the money in this world can really make you happy. Because really, what's all the money in this world going to do? You're just going to keep bringing more and more and more and more stuff. And you're just going to go attaching to all of them. And if the mind were able to take into object all of those things at any one point, now you're losing all of them in the flash of a second. A guy's invested $100 in stocks and shares. The other one's invested 100 million. Okay, at least you can take that into as an example. $100 versus $100,000. Now you're looking at the stock market, the charts. You can see where this is going. You're looking at the stock market performing, right? Those sticks going up and down, up and down, up and down. At one moment, it's gone. Where's my stock shares? Where are my stocks? Where are my shares? They're back again. It's like you've got a bank account. One guy's got $100, the other guy's got $100,000. You're looking at the balance in your bank account. At one point, you've got the guy who's got $100, he says, $100. Next moment, where's my money gone? He's only lost how much? $100. The other guy's got $100,000. One moment he can see it, next moment he's going, where's my $100,000? How's he going to feel at that point? So tell me then, wealth brings you happiness, right? Oh no, it's knowledge that brings you happiness, right? Sorry, power that brings you happiness, right? Do you see why I left all three behind? Do you understand why I have no longer any value for any of them? Remember I said, I ordained because I had money problems. I've said this to you in the past. I ordained because I had money problems. What was my money problem? Not all the money in this world can bring me happiness. That was the money problem I had. I ordained because I had food problems. Not all the food in this world can make me happy. And finally, I ordained because I had women problems. Ask young people these days, what brings them happiness? Women. Not all the women in this world can bring me happiness. Because I have been cursed with a mind that arises and passes away. Arises and passes away. Arises and passes away. For as long as I have attachment, I am screwed. Head to toe, I'm screwed. Because with passing away, attachment doesn't pass away. The Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana passes away. But attachment is a constant. It's just there. For as long as ignorance is there, attachment is there right behind. Now I said I was going to explain to you that example I gave you in a little bit more detail about how when the mother's holding on to this child's hand, there is even more that we didn't discuss last week. So consider this, right? So far we know at the point where this Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana has arisen, at the peak of this curve, at the peak of that curve, the mother can sense that the child, that she's holding on to the mother's hand, the child's hand. Yes? Understood so far? All aboard? Yeah. So at the peak of that curve, the mother knows, okay, in my hand. And at the trough, at the bottom of that curve, now the mother's going, where's my child? So this too you understand. What about the bits in the middle? Let me extend that example. I'll fill in the detail now. Mother walked into the shopping mall holding on to the child's hand. Let's start there at the peak. This child is so mischievous. Imagine also that this mother is deaf, or rather she's mute. So she can't speak. Okay? She's mute. This child starts running away from the mother. But the mother can't run as fast as the child. And she's got so much baggage with her that she can't run anyway. There's a lot of people, he's very busy. But the child is small, and so he can creep through all sorts of barriers. Now the mother sees the child running away from her. She knows pretty damn well that I'm going to lose my child now. And she sees the child running away, but she can't say anything because she's mute. She can't say, Putta, please come back. Putta, come here, don't go. She can't say any of that. Or she can speak, but the child's deaf. Actually, I think that's a better analogy. She can speak all she likes. She can scream all she likes. But the child is deaf. That's the more fitting analogy, because Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana is completely ignorant, it completely has no interest in what you like or don't like. Does not care at all about what you like or what you don't like. When it's time to pass away, it's going to pass away. So it's death. The mother's crying, Buddha, don't go, please come back. Oh, indifferent, that's the word I was looking for. Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, they're indifferent to how the mother feels about them. Going back to the example, this child is deaf. So this child knows nothing about how the mother's feeling right now. Does it? No, because he can't hear. So the mother's screaming, child, Buddha, can you come back, please? Don't leave me like this. I'm going to have to start looking for you now when you run away and go and hide. So she's shouting at the top of her voice, but that child is deaf, so he can't hear. And all the mother can see is the child's running away. How's the mother going to feel? And then she starts looking, where's my child? Where's my child? Where's my child gone? And then she sees, at some point the child starts running back to her. Now she feels hopeful. Ah, there he is. But until that child comes back and holds the mother's hand, isn't this mother in a state of suspense, in a state of uncertainty? Might this child come all the way back? Might someone come in front of me and then I not be able to see the child again? Might he trip and fall and then I might not be able to see the child again? Until the child comes back and holds on to the mother's hand, this mother is in a state of uncertainty and vexation. Now let's fill those two back into the example, or into what we were trying to use this example to explain. Mother walked into the mall holding on to the child's hand. That was the point at which pleasure was experienced, ashwada. Now the child lets go of the mother's hand and starts running away. Viparinama dukkha. The mother can see the child running away, but the mother can't do anything about it, because although she's screaming, she's lamenting, she's in so much grief, she's in so much sorrow, but can she do anything about it? No, because the child is deaf. She can scream all she likes, the child is not going to turn back and look, because the child is indifferent to how the mother feels. Likewise, Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, now it's passing away, indifferent to the fact that you're attached to it. How ruthless. If you love someone so much, should they not care about you at least one tiny bit? Tell me. If you love your wife, if you love your husband, if you love your mother, father, your child so much that all you've done is love them all your life, not just this life, throughout samsara, all you've done is love your child, love your husband, love your wife. Should they not care about you one tiny bit, just to be grateful? Yes or no? Would you not expect them to be just a tiny bit, just a tad bit grateful? So do you not expect Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana just to be tiny bit grateful? But are they? Completely indifferent to how you feel. Completely indifferent to the fact that all you've done in your life is love them. You have given them your heart and soul. Everything you did was on their behalf. Everything you did for them. Did you not? When you say, darling, my wife, I will do anything for you, what did you really mean? Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, I will do anything for you. Is that not what you really meant? Because what did you get from your wife? Apart from Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Remember, the mind only speaks one language, and there are only 5 words in that language. There is no beautiful hair in that language. There's only Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. There's no my wife has beautiful eyes in that language. It's only got Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. That's all. There's no my wife has a beautiful voice. No, it's only Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Your body can hold on, your hand can hold on to your wife's hand, but your mind can't. The problem is not in your hand holding on to her hand. The problem is in your mind holding on to her. That's where suffering comes. Is it physical attachment that brings suffering? No, it's mental attachment that brings suffering. What can the mind attach to? Only these 5 things. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. Nothing else. So when you say, I will go to the moon and back for you, my darling. I will go to Mars for you, my darling. I will go hungry for you, my darling. All you really meant was, I will go hungry for you, Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. I will go to the moon for you, Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. That's all you really meant. But you said that, and you did that. You were true to your word, oh God. You were so faithful. You kept to your word, and you loved them with your life. With your heart and soul you loved them. But did they care one bit about that? When it was time to go, bye-bye. When it was time to pass away, adios. You go, but I love you. I don't care. Do you not feel cheated on? Do you not feel you've been cheated? Do you not feel for as long as you have this attachment that you are destitute? Does this not shock you? Seriously? Does this not shock you? That this is what we've all been doing throughout samsara? So much love and affection and caring we gave them, but nothing came back in return. It was only a one-sided love. It was as if you loved a dead body. Nothing came back. It was a one-sided relationship. Nothing came back. You wrote letters in blood. Nothing came back. You gave your heart and soul. You worked your guts for Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, but nothing came back. Because so indifferent. Don't care a tuppence. Not 2 hoots. Not one tiny bit about how you feel about them. Go back to the example again. So as this mother is now holding on, the mother is holding on to the child's hand, but remember the child is deaf. So she can't say anything to the child. The moment that she lets go of the child's hand, now she can't do anything to stop the child from running away, because there's no other way she can give an indication, please don't go. The only way she can indicate is by physically holding on to the child. But the moment the child has let go of the mother's hand down, there's nothing she can do. Nothing she can do to stop that child from running away. All the mother can do is look, or rather wait and watch as this child runs away and cry about it. And then after a while, the child appears somewhere in the distance. And then the child starts running back to the mother. But until the child has come back and takes hold of the mother's hand, uncertain. Might this happen? Might he stop? Might he turn around and run back again? Because the mother can't say anything. The child is deaf. Saying anything isn't going to make any difference. So do you see then, when I say that dukkha, when the Buddha says that dukkha is constant throughout this process, the moment that attachment arose, dukkha kicked off. This fear of uncertainty. Might this child come back to me? So this is the point of trying to bring the child back. You've lost it. Now you're trying to find it. going through the process of seeking, searching, finding, looking for. Might I be able to find him? Where might he be? And then you see the child in the distance. Now the child is running back to you, but only when you hold on to the child's hand can you breathe a sigh of relief. Until that time, this fear of uncertainty is still in the mother's heart. Yes or no? Are you following me? Yes. Throughout this phase, this is abhisankara dukkha. Trying to do whatever is in the mother's power to bring the child back, but also dukkha. Might I be able to fulfill this? Might I be able to get hold of the child again? And then eventually the child comes and holds on to the mother's hand. Now at that point, sankara dukkha can stop. Because you no longer have to seek, no longer have to look, no longer have to wait. You're now holding on to the child's hand. But still, dukkha is still there. Might this child run away from me again? Will I lose him again? Will someone come and kidnap this child again? But no matter how much the mother prays for it, wishes for it, the child is going to do what again? What's the child going to do again? Run away. And then the mother can't do anything but watch the child and start crying and weeping and lamenting again. Because she can scream all she likes, but the child is deaf. So the child is indifferent to the mother. This is exactly what happens in your mind. Kick off a process of abhisankara for nothing other than accept or taking in a packet of rupa vedana sanya sankara vijnana. That's all. Because you like rupa vedana sanya sankara vijnana. This is why you're looking for it. You're seeking what it is you desire. This is what you're doing. You're seeking what you desire. If you didn't desire it, you wouldn't be seeking it. Then it wouldn't matter whether the child came or not. Then it wouldn't matter. If it wasn't your child, would it matter? Child comes and holds onto your hand. Oh, okay. Then the child runs away. Oh, okay. Then you see the child running away. So what? Not my child. Then again you see the child coming back to you. Do you care? No. It's just somebody's child, not my child. So I don't care. But the point it became your child. Now every second of that process, you're in vexation. So what's the cause for suffering there? Child? What is it? Attachment. My child. Where's attachment? Mine. Do you realize how we dig our own graves? How we keep asking for trouble? We're just asking for it. It's not the child that loves the mother. It's the mother that loves the child. The child doesn't care about the mother. It's the mother that's in love with it. Because if the child loved the mother, would the child run away? If that's what the child cared about the most, mother, would the child run away? No, the child sees a sweet shop. Now what does the child want? Sweets, not the mother. So the child wouldn't run away then. So is it because the mother likes the child to not run away that the child is with mother? Does the mother's liking have to do anything with where the child is? No, because if that were the case, then the child wouldn't have run away at any point from the moment they came into the shopping mall. But the moment the child sees the sweet shop, now the child doesn't care. He just wants sweets. And he runs. So when I say the sentence, child sees sweet shop and he runs to the sweet shop, where in that sentence am I talking about the mother's wish? Mother's liking? Where? Nowhere. Likewise, your liking, your desire, your attachment has nothing to do with whether Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana arises or passes away. That's just the nature of them. So you're helpless. You're helpless in their face. And if you attach yourself to it, then you're destitute. You can't stop it. That's why I say you are helpless. Even a Buddha can't stop the mind arising and passing away. That's just a constant. That's just the nature of the world. The Buddha didn't come into this world to stop the nature of the world. Ever heard of the Buddha stopping the world going this way and make it go around the other way? No, that's not what the Buddha comes into this world for. The Buddha comes into this world to teach you how to stop bringing suffering into your world, not the outside world. Because suffering is not in the outside world. That's why. So what should you do then? Okay, so example, right? All understood, right? What do I do now? What should you do now? Stop attachment. Okay, I'm going to count to 1 and then you're all going to stop attachment. Okay, ready? 3, 2. Is that so easy? Well, you would have done it by now, wouldn't you? If it were so easy. Why is it not so easy? Big pen, man? Because you've been doing it for a very long time. But you can't stop that. It's not simply because you've been doing it for a very long time. Because you've been doing it for a very long time, now into your core, this message has gone in. The sensation, the notion has gone in right to your core that the world is pleasurable. This is why drushti vipalyasa, and then there's sanya vipalyasa, and then there's chitta vipalyasa. Distorted view, distorted perception, and distorted conscience. All three have to be uprooted for attachment to cease. Initially you started with view. None of us came into this world thinking that gold was valuable, did we? No. But someone said so. And when someone said so, then you started researching about gold, you went online, Googled it, found out what the value of gold was, and where you can buy it, where you can invest in it, blah, 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 blah. And then over time what happened? That didn't wait, that wasn't just a view. Now it became cemented. That view was taken, accepted as a firm belief. Now it's not just a view, it's not just a consideration. It has now become a belief. Now when I say gold, all you can think of is what? Precious. Like Gollum. I say ring, Gollum says what? You know what I'm talking about? Okay, don't worry. You do, right? Yes, he knows. I was making reference to Lord of the Rings. Don't worry about it. There's a character in that movie. And this character is obsessed with this particular ring. His name's Gollum. So whenever he sees this ring, he goes, "My precious." It doesn't have the same effect if you haven't watched the movie. Forget it. But that's where you're going right now. You're just saying precious. I say gold, you say precious. I say diamonds, you say what? Precious. I say money, you say precious. I say knowledge, you say precious. I say power, you say precious. Whatever I say, you're just going to say precious. I say Nibbana, you say, oh no. Maybe not now. That's what you used to say though. You know, some people say, when we say, you really should attain Nibbana, right? You should work hard for it. Some people say, it's not a bad idea, but I just don't like the fact that you can't be born again. Some people say that. It's not a bad idea, but I just don't like the fact that you can't be born again. Can you be born and attain Nibbana at the same time? Sometimes you say you should attain Sodapanna. Like your head is on fire. This is what the Buddha preached. Like a man whose head is on fire. Even before you put out the fire on your head, attain Sotapanna. And people say, that's not a bad idea. But I hear that you can only be born another 7 times. That's not a good deal. Some people say that. So they, clearly no understanding of what Nibbana is. No understanding of what Sansara is. That's the problem. You will understand what Nibbana is if you understand what Sansara is. That's the way it works. Not the other way around. If you understand what Sansara is, then you will realize why this Sansara is nothing but suffering. From start to end. Okay, what is Sansara? Uh-oh. You were hoping I wouldn't ask the question? What is the smallest unit of Sansara? A chitta. So when I say Sansara, don't think about all this, where did we start this journey? Is it hell, heaven, or Deva worlds or Brahma worlds? Forget all that, because that you have to take by faith. Remember, I was never a man of faith. That's not how I started this journey. I've shared my story with you, haven't I? Many a time. I didn't take anything that I had to accept by faith. Today that has changed. But back then I would only accept whatever was true. You know that your thoughts arise and pass away. What is this? What number? And what is this? How do you know? Because when I held this one up, you could see it, but when I held this up, now that passed away, and now a new rupa has entered your mind. So if the first one stayed stationary, not going anywhere, you wouldn't have been able to tell that this was two. So you know then that your thoughts arise and pass away. Right? How do you know it's evening now? What if your chitta froze in the morning, you'd still be seeing daylight out there. Is that a good thing? If it arose and then stuck, froze, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is arising a good thing or a bad thing? Is that a bad thing? Is it a good thing or a bad thing, arising? You know, the best way to ask yourself if something's a good thing or a bad thing is put it in relation to an arahant. Because whenever we make a judgment of whether something's good or bad, remember our judgments are always clouded. By what? Ignorance. So to decide whether something's good or bad for real, objectively, not subjectively, you have to remove the subjective factor. What is the subjective factor? Ignorance. Remove ignorance. Now ask an arahant, is arising a good thing or a bad thing? Whatever. Whatever. I don't care. That's what an arahant is going to say. If you have to arise, then arise. If you can't, not my problem. Arises and then freezes. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Who do you have to ask? An arahant. Take away the subjective factor of ignorance. An arahant is going to say what? Whatever. If it freezes, then let it freeze. Not let it snow. Let it freeze. And then it passes away. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Whatever. If it passes away, let it pass away. If it doesn't pass away, then so what? Is attachment a good thing or a bad thing? Again, who must you ask? An arahant. But I'm asking you. Ask a non-arahant. Is attachment a good thing or a bad thing? Or at least ask a non-Aryan. What are they going to say? It's the best thing in my life. Attachment. What are other words for attachment? Love, pleasure, love, affection. All of these are words for attachment. Whoever said love's a bad thing? People out there, what do they say? Love is beautiful. Don't they? Is love beautiful though? It's okay, you don't have to answer now. Ami and Tatya next week. It depends who you ask. Because depending on who you ask, they're going to answer with or without the subjective factor, which is ignorance. Throw in ignorance, all the things that you're saying are good, take out ignorance, each and every one of them are going to come out bad. And the other way around as well. Put in ignorance, everything you say is bad, take out ignorance, it's all going to be the reverse. That's why I said there's an equation for ignorance. Just as much as there was an equation for dukkha, for suffering last week, there's also an equation for ignorance. It's x times minus 1 equals y. Minus 1 is ignorance. Because whatever you put into x, if you put in a positive number, what are you going to get? A negative number. If you put in a negative number, what are you going to get? A positive number. Positive numbers are things that are really out there. There's one winnowing fan in my hand. How many winnowing fans are there now? None. If I take another one, how many are there in my hand now? Well, the world out there will say minus 1. That's a made up thing, is it not? How many minus 1 winnowing fans can I carry around with me? Infinite, yes. Because that's a fictional thing. It's a fabrication. It's nonsensical. It's just a made up thing. So put in a positive number. If you're going to get a negative number outside of the equation, then whatever you've multiplied it by, that has to be ignorance. Because throw in positive, you get negative. Throw in negative, you get positive. So if positive is what is true in the world, then put in truth, you get what? False. Throw in false, you get true. Isn't that the nature of ignorance? Anicca dukkha anatta. Is that the truth or false? That's the truth. But put in ignorance, what do you get? Nicca sukha atta. So do you see, from the moment we attach ourselves to whatever it might be, it's just suffering throughout. So I was asking the question, so what should you do then? In your lives, what do I do now? Okay, I get it, Swaminatha, I get it. Attachment is the cause for suffering, so what do I do now? So here's what you ought to do. Who here dislikes pain and suffering? Who here tries to tackle suffering? I don't like mental suffering, so I'm going to deal with mental suffering. Everyone else okay with that? Did you understand the question? I'm saying put your hand up if you don't like mental suffering. And whenever you experience mental suffering, you want to deal with it. Okay, so that's where we need to start to change. That's not what we need to deal with. Remember, it's not the things we don't like that brought us suffering. It's the things we liked that brought us suffering. It's not vexation that we need to fix. It's pleasure that we need to fix. Because it's because of pleasure we attached. When we experience pleasure, immediately you attach yourself to it. Let me give you an analogy, a really simple analogy. Hopefully this will really help you understand this. It's a gloomy sky and it's about to rain. You look outside, look at the sky, it's probably going to rain in a bit. A foolish man is not going to consider that. He wants to set off on a journey. He gets out, puts on his shoes or slippers or footwear, whatever, and he starts walking. He doesn't prepare himself for the oncoming what? Rain. But is it not going to come in a moment? And when it comes, he's going to be wet, he's going to be drenched, and he's going to be suffering. But the wise man, he's going to look at the sky and go, oh, it's going to rain. so I had better take an umbrella with me. He's still going to walk. He's still going to set on his journey, but he's going to go prepared with an umbrella. Follow my example? Or the analogy even? Now let's apply that. The foolish man doesn't care about what's going to happen in the future. He doesn't care about what's going to come in future. He just cares about the present moment. Right now he just wants to go out and play or whatever. He doesn't care about looking at the sky, that it's going to rain in a moment. He doesn't care about any of that. He just wants to go out. So he goes out. But because he has not gone prepared, he's most definitely going to get wet as soon as it starts to rain. But the wise man, he looks at the sky, he takes an umbrella and he walked out. So when it rains, this man's prepared. Applying that to the doctrine, this rain is the anicca world. You can't control when it's going to rain. It's going to rain when it's going to rain. When is it going to rain? What's the answer? When it's going to rain. That's when it's going to rain. It's going to rain when it's going to rain. What can we do about it? Stay indoors? But we have to go on this journey as well. You can't stop that. You have to go on this journey. So what's the only thing you can do then? Take an umbrella with you. So the anicca world is, in the analogy, is the rain. You can't stop it. The world is anicca. So if you consider it being as the arising and passing away of the chittas, that's like the rain. You can't stop it. It's going to arise when it's going to arise. It's going to pass away when it's going to pass away. And we have to be able to survive in such a world. And this is what you have to be doing. This is, when you go back after having listened to this sermon, you're going to go back into an anicca world where chittas are going to arise and pass away. And also, if you take it from a macroscopic view, sight, sound, smells, taste and touch that you like or dislike are just going to come into your life. People are going to come and shout at you. And the next day they're going to come and praise you. Today your boss is going to come and say, hey, you shouldn't have done that. Next day they're going to come and talk to you about a promotion. Praise and blame, they come in equal share, in equal measure even. Good and bad comes in equal measure. Profit and loss comes in equal measure. You just have to accept it, whatever comes through. So the question is, how do you face that? And that is by taking this umbrella as you go out. When you have this umbrella, now the water doesn't fall on you, it doesn't drench you, it doesn't make you wet. Having this umbrella is the protection that you give yourself. Through wisdom you made that decision. Protect yourself from the rain. Using an umbrella, taking an umbrella out with you is not attaching to whatever the world throws at you. Not attaching to whatever the world throws at you. Going out without the umbrella because of ignorance is attaching to whatever the world throws at you. Now when it arises, it may give you pleasure, and when it passes away, now that's going to leave you suffering. So I asked you the question, what then do you have to protect yourself from? Is it the pain or is it the gain? It's the gain you have to protect yourself from. Remember the rat that we sent to a tuition class to learn which he has to avoid? Was it the bait or was it the trap? Which one must this rat take a lesson in? Avoiding the bait or avoiding the trap? Avoiding the bait, absolutely. Ever seen a rat in a trap with no bait? No. To catch a rat, you have to put the bait. So if you want to teach a rat how not to get caught, then you have to teach the bugger how to not fall for the bait, not the trap. Leave the trap with no bait, it's not going to do anything. So the points in life, the moments in life where you experience pleasure, these are the moments where you have to be extremely cautious. You see a flower and you think, that's a beautiful flower. Your knees ought to start trembling in fear. You see a girl and think, she's beautiful. Your heart starts beating, but for all the wrong reasons. It should not be beating with the fire of raga, or fire of desire. It should be beating with the fear of samsara. Why? Because you've just seen beauty in the outside world when there is no beauty to be seen. If you're seeing beauty, then what does that mean? You're experiencing what? Pleasure. For pleasure to be experienced, what must you have before that? Vexation. So you're vexed. This is why you're experiencing pleasure. And the name you give to pleasure you experience through your eye is what? Beauty. Put your hand up if you think you're beautiful. Is there anyone here who can be beautiful? Can there be? No. Because beauty is not an attribute of a person or an object or anything for that matter. It's not an attribute of a person. You can take their temperature. Yes, that's an attribute of a person. If it's a real attribute, then 9 times out of 10, there'll be an apparatus that has been invented to measure it. Temperature, is there not an apparatus for that? That's called the thermometer. Color, is there not an apparatus for that? There is. You can measure color in an object, and you shine light on it, and then whatever gets reflected back, I can't remember the name of it. But there's an apparatus for that. Weight, is that not a characteristic of an object? Well, you have a weighing scale to measure that. Height, is that not a characteristic of an object? Yes, you can measure that. You have a tape to measure that, a tape measure. Beauty, what object has been invented to measure that? Can it ever be measured? Why can an apparatus not be invented to measure it? Why? Because? Yes, because it is not a characteristic of the outside world object. That's why it cannot be measured. So there is no one in this world who's beautiful. Because beauty is not an aspect of the object. Beauty is just another word for pleasure that is experienced when someone releases themselves from vexation as a result of attachment. And that's the output of a process. That process runs in the mind, not in the object. Sound. What are some of the characteristics of sound? Loudness. How can you measure that? Decibels. Right? You can measure the beat. It's something like a metronome. That measures the beat, or at least it indicates the beat. I'm sure there are instruments out there that can measure the beat. Possibly I haven't studied that to that extent. But you can measure that. What instrument has been invented to measure how beautiful a song is? YouTube likes. There can never be an instrument that measures that. But you have one, don't you? You have an instrument that measures how beautiful a sight is. You have an instrument that measures how beautiful a sound is. You have an instrument that measures how tasty, how yummy a bit of cake is. Do you not? You have an instrument that measures how lovely smelling something out there is, a flower or whatever. You have an instrument. But there is no physical instrument out there, there's no apparatus that can measure any of those things that your mind can measure. Why is that? To get the answer, you have to ask whom? An Arahant. You should ask an Arahant. Go ask an Arahant. Show them 2 women, show an Arahant 2 girls. Which one's more beautiful? He's going to go, what do you mean? He's going, I don't have an instrument that can measure that. Does he still not have a mind though? Play him 2 tracks music and ask which one's more beautiful. He's going to say, what do you mean? What do you mean which song is more beautiful? Give him 2 slices of cake and ask him which one's yummier, which one's tastier. He's going to go, what do you mean? He's going to say, I don't have an instrument that can measure this. So is it the mind then that measures this? Or is it something in the mind that measures it? What is it? It's something in the mind that measures it. And what is that? It's the subjective factor. Ignorance. Are you not ashamed that when you see a flower, you say it's beautiful? You can see beauty in a flower. Are you not ashamed? You see a person and you go, she's beautiful, she's pretty. Are you not ashamed? You see a young man and say, that guy's handsome. Are you not ashamed? You are ignorant. You should call yourself, whenever you experience that, just say, you ignorant fool. You ignorant fool. This is why I say to young people, when you understand this, you really understand this. People out there, they're just mental. If you really understand this, if you're a young boy or a young girl and another guy or a girl comes and says, hey, I really like you, you're so beautiful. Can I have your hand in marriage? You should turn on and say, you ignorant fool. Which bit of me is beautiful? Yes or no, madam? Yes. Because beauty is not an aspect of the outside world object. How can you say you're beautiful? That just is not true. It's a false statement. It's an invalid statement. So you're starting off a relationship on an invalid statement? You're starting off a relationship on a false statement? How are you going to be happy in that relationship? Beats me. That's why I came out of that relationship. So you have to fear whenever you see beauty. Just like, imagine there's a king that goes to battle. There's a king that goes to battle with his battalion. He's at war. As he runs out to fight the enemy, he can hear a roar coming from his side of the army because he has so many men who's taken weapons and they're on beasts and horses and whatever, elephants, and they're all running to fight this battle. But he's fighting, but after a while he can't hear any of the roars coming from his side. He turns around and he sees everywhere he used to see men a few hours ago or a few minutes ago, now there's just pools of blood, corpses. But the enemy is still coming, charging at him. How is this king going to feel at that point? Isn't he going to start sweating from head to toe? Is his knees not going to start trembling? That is how you must feel when you see something and you think, that's beautiful. Like a king who's lost at battle. If you hear a song, if you hear a music, some kind of music, and you think, that's a lovely tune. How you should feel is like a king who's lost at battle. Your knees ought to start trembling. What battle have you lost? The battle against Mara. The battle of Sansar. You have lost it yet again. When you're eating a piece of cake, if you're keen on having pizza tonight for dinner, and you can't be satisfied with whatever you got at home, I'm pizza. You're saying that because pizza is pleasurable, isn't it? You're saying that because pizza is yummy, because cake is yummy, because chocolate is yummy. So if you can experience yummy, your knees ought to start trembling. You should start sweating from head to toe. You have lost at battle again. Your entire battalion are now simply corpses. This is how you must feel. So it's not the pain that you need to worry about. Let go of that. It's whenever you feel pleasure, that's what you need to attack. It's beauty you need to attack. It's yummy you need to attack. It's lovely you need to attack. Because it's because of beauty, lovely, yummy, that you then go and attach yourselves to Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Remember the example I gave you at the beginning. You hire 5 people to come and work at your factory, at your company. First time round you rejected them. Same people came back with a recommendation, you accepted them. Are they not the same people that you rejected first time round? Are they not going to be doing exactly the same thing now as they would if you had hired them the first time round? Only difference, this time they came with a recommendation. You didn't hire the recommendation, you hired the person. You hired the person, not the recommendation. Hire the recommendation, send the people back home. That I'm okay with. No, you hired the people based on the recommendation. So based on ignorance, what did you take in? Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Now they are indifferent to how you feel about them, so they're not going to care about how they work at your company. Day after day, you're just going to be losing out. You're just going to go bankrupt. How many times have you gone bankrupt? Every chitta, you go bankrupt. How many times more do you want to go bankrupt? I'm trying to give all sorts of examples just to try and help you make sense of this. I'm hoping at least something is going in. By that I don't mean you're stupid. I just mean I'm using a language which I'm not comfortable with using to express the Dhamma. That's all I mean by that. It's really difficult to try and express some of these meanings, some of these ideas. I can't even say Andana in English, let alone the Dhamma. Hopefully, some of it is making sense at least. So if it is, practice. Be fearful of the times you experience pleasure, not pain. Pain will look after itself. Sort out the pleasure. If you're driving along the street, you see a billboard of a beautiful girl, whatever ad, soap ad, shampoo ad, jewelry ad, and you think, oh, beautiful girl. Your knees ought to start trembling. Best pull up. Your knees are trembling and you're driving. You had best pull up. Yes or no? But what a shame. Your knees aren't trembling. They ought to be. So, reflect on this. Contemplate on this. Don't let go of one moment where you have experienced pleasure. Don't let go of it without contemplating it. That is what bhavana is. That is what meditation is. You don't have to come here to do meditation. Do meditation at home. Do meditation on your way back home. Do meditation as you walk, as you drive past Pizza Hut. That's where you should be doing your meditation. Do meditation as you walk into the supermarket. You went in to buy a loaf of bread, but you're walking past the Toblerone chocolates. Now do your meditation. What are you sensing right now? What are you sensing right now? Pleasure. What should your knees be doing right now? Trembling. What should your body be doing now? Sweating from head to toe. Why? You are losing this battle yet again. Because if you are sensing pleasure, then you are in vexation. If you are in vexation, then you are attached. If you are attached, you are still going through in Sansara. You are still going down in Sansara. And you will be born again. Not next birth. There's going to be another chitta. And in that chitta, you don't know what karma you've done in the past will come and take root. Will come and bear fruit even. Remember, with every chitta that arises, there is potential for vipakas of previous karmas to come and bear fruit. And you don't know what vipaka it's going to be. Are you not fearful of samsara? The next chitta could be your last. Why? Next good chitta, a valve in your heart could stop working. There could be a clot in your brain, blood vessels. Next chitta. Why? Vipaka. Every chitta there is a potential for vipaka to come in. Every chitta. Aren't you scared? So reflect on that. Well, don't worry about the pain. Leave that alone. If your leg's hurting, if your body's hurting, if you've got backaches, trust me, that's not the biggest problem in your life. If you got stomach aches, if you got backaches, if you got whatever aches, that's not the biggest problem in your life. Diabetes is not the biggest problem in your life. Let diabetes alone. If you've got HIV, that's still not the biggest problem in your life. You could be dying of cancer, that's still not the biggest problem in your life. The biggest problem in your life is you're still sensing pleasure. You're still sensing pleasure. You're going to be born again, and again it's going to be cancer and whatever. Time and time and time again, non-stop. Treat the problem. Treat the real problem. Treat the cause of the problem. Everything else will look after itself. Okay then, before we conclude, let us take a moment to transfer the merits that we have all acquired today to all those who deserve the merits. First and foremost, as we did at the beginning, let us take a moment to remind ourselves that it is because of the Supremely Enlightened One, the Perfect One, the Omniscient One, the Unvanquished One, the Undefeated One, the Undefeatable One, the Infinitely Compassionate Supreme Buddha that we have the gift of Dhamma today. It is because he sacrificed himself over many eons in samsara for the liberation of all sentient beings, and with no expectation in return, that we have the gift of Dhamma today. Bearing that in mind, let us also take a moment to remind ourselves of the Bhikkhu Bhikkhunis, Upasaka Upasikas who, over many generations, protected and preserved the Dhamma that was expounded by the Buddha and passed it down through the generations all the way down to us in the form of Tripitaka. And today we have the Tripitaka which we can study and analyze and understand and use for our comprehension and our understanding. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. If any of them have been born in the woeful plains, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful plains. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Also take a moment to remind yourselves of all the members of the Mahasangha, no matter wherever in the world they may be, Bhikkhu Bhikkhunis, Upasaka Upasikas, as well as particularly the Mahanayakas and the Anunayakas of all the 3 chapters, of all Nikayas, of all sects of Buddhism they may be in wherever, in all parts of the world. Also, take a special moment to remind ourselves of the members of the Mahasangha, the Lokaswami Mahanses, as well as the Samanera monks in your local temples and nunneries. Although you have come along today to listen to the Dhamma, to make offerings to the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, it is those monks and nuns in your local temples and nunneries who have always been by your side, through thick and thin, come rain or shine, have always been by your side, assisting you, and helping shape your children up to becoming good citizens of the country. Therefore, it is important that we do not forget about them and transfer these merits to them as well. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Also, let us take a moment to transfer merits to the Devas, Brahmas, spirits, demons, and the dead that we invited at the start of this sermon, as well as all those beings who have been our mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, nephews, nieces, grandparents, and so on and so forth. Perhaps been our teachers, not just in this world but in our previous lives as well. Anyone and everyone who might have helped us, supported us, assisted us in any way, shape or form, to not only lead a good life but also to guide us on this path in the Dhamma. If there has been anyone who has helped us, assisted us, may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Particularly reminding yourselves that today perhaps the reason that you have been able to be born a human being in this blissful plane is because there might have been a mother, a father, or any other kind of relation who might have got involved in a situation in which you were involved and saved you from committing an unmeritorious deed by doing it themselves. Today they have been born in the woeful plane and suffering for the consequences of those deeds, but today you have been born in the blissful plane. So it is only our duty and our obligation to pass on these merits to them, because it is of them that today we have this opportunity to be here today. So may they all rejoice in the merits that we all acquire today. For all those beings who have come across in 91 eons in Sansara, may all of them be able to rejoice in these merits. If any of them have been born in the woeful planes, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves and be born in the blissful planes. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to the members of the armed forces as well as the police force who fought a long and bloody cold war in Sri Lanka, who sacrificed their lives to protecting and preserving the peace and harmony of this country. It is thanks to them that today you and I can live in peace and harmony. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, as well as men and women who died in that long war in Sri Lanka. Be friend or foe, if any of them are today looking for merits, seeking merits, are deserving of merits, may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Also reminding yourselves of those men and women who might have lost their lives in natural calamities such as the tsunamis and other disasters, not just in Sri Lanka but also in other parts of the world. They may be friends, they may be relations, they may be neighbors, or they may be non-acquaintances of whatever shape or form. But remind ourselves that there's not a man or woman on this planet who has never been a mother or father to us. So all those men and women have at one point in our lives been a mother, been a father to us, and helped us and supported us in any way and every way that they could imagine, that we could imagine, in every way that it was possible for them. So may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. If any of them have been born in the woeful planes, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful planes, be able to be born in the blissful planes, may through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. It is also our duty and obligation to transfer merits to our members of our families as well as colleagues that you work with in your workplaces, in your ventures, in your enterprises. It is because of them that today you are able to be here today and to listen to this sermon, to practice the path of Dhamma, because today they have taken on your duties and responsibilities and they are fulfilling them in your homes, in your workplaces. So it is only right and it is only our duty to transfer merits to them as well. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of those merits they be able to abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Also, let's take a moment to transfer merits to those men and women who have dedicated their lives to protecting this country, developing this country, and leading this country. If not for them, you and I will today have to be protecting, developing, and leading this country. It is thanks to them that today you and I have the freedom of time and the leisure to come along to listen to these sermons and practice the path, practice the Dhamma. So may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today as well. May through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from any woeful planes. May they be able to practice the noble eightfold path, practice the meritorious deeds, redeem themselves from the unmeritorious deeds, abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may through the power of all the merits that we have all acquired today in preaching the Dhamma, listening to the Dhamma, in making offerings and offering flowers to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, in taking the time and effort to decorating the stage as you have done so, as a mark of respect to the Dhamma, may through the power of all these merits, as well as the merits that you will have acquired and you will be acquiring by offering a meal, perhaps a cup of tea, or maybe just a glass of water to someone who might have come along, by ushering them to a seat, by offering them transport, or perhaps in any way, shape or form making this event possible, making this venue available, or just by spreading the word to someone so that they could come along and listen to this sermon today in the hope that it helps them to redeem themselves from samsara. So may the merits of all these meritorious deeds that we have all acquired today enable and empower many hundreds of thousands of men and women wherever they may be in this universe to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana, and may we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahatan Mahansays in this blessed land, in our very birth itself, this very life itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may you and I and each one and everyone who will have contributed to this meritorious deed be able to become one of those Arahatan Mahansays, one of those Arahat Mehin Mahansays in this very human birth itself, in the era of the Gautama, Supreme Buddha itself. May you all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. The members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of desire. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of aversion. May I and all beings in all worlds be free from the fires of delusion. May I and all beings in all worlds attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. May the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.